What's up, Andy? Thanks, man, for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I nearly forgot you there. I was trying this morning and I haven't even had a shower yet. Look, my hair's all fuzzy and everything, but we'll be all right.
Raw and unedited.
Yeah, the best way.
That's it. And have the guys? So with guys like the pros training and that, there's the fights coming up soon? Do you think the guys, the pros in the gym?
Give me 1 second to losing you there. I don't know what happened there. Modern technology there, yeah. I don't know what it's on. I swiped something, I hit something on the phone, and I lost you. Yeah, pros in the gym. Sorry, yeah, pros will be training, but there's only a handful of them, really, isn't there? You know.
Yeah. How have you found that then? Like with training with it being just such a small group.
Yeah, I found it hard because you can only allow elite athletes to have a fight coming up, you know, or there's something planned, and there's not that many really, you know. And then what people then have, even if they are pros or they're a certain level, they might have family members that could be sick or vulnerable, and they might be nervous themselves about coming training. So I found that a lot of the fighters want to train, but it's the family and jobs they work in sort of don't allow it, you know.
Yeah,
I can understand that as well.
Yeah, there's like a wider community around people, I suppose, that you have to take into consideration as well. Yeah. When do you think Ireland? Do you think shows will happen soon in Ireland? Because obviously I know there's been a few different ones planned, but then they've kind of got cancelled at the last minute.
Well, I see Clanmores just put a date up there. I think the end of May for the two shows, 29th and 30th, I think. And Cage Legacy will probably do the same, I'd say, you know. But I think Cage Legacy will find it hard till things reopen. You know what I mean? Maybe once football matches start back and other stuff, they might allow the show to go on.
Yeah, it's so hard, especially like when you're mixing in, like, I suppose, amateur fights as well with pro fights. Become very reliant then to try to cover costs.
Yeah, I got to think as well. We're looking at the amateurs. They're elite amateurs, aren't they? They're trying to make world championships and other stuff like this. You know what I mean? I suppose like the taekwondo guys and other, you know, martial arts. You know, so I think they should be allowed train and allowed compete once everything is done by the book. You know what I mean? The PCR tests and, you know, everything sterilized and stuff. I don't think there should be a problem.
Yeah. So I suppose, look, just to actually, take it back about yourself. How did you get started in martial? How did you get started in martial arts? Where did the journey begin for you?
So a long time ago in the 70s in Dago Judo Club. There's a club in Colester. I actually thought I was joining a karate club, but it was a judo club. And I think it was about 6 or 7, about 79, I think, 78, 79, 80, and around that time I joined. And that was really the start of it. Now, I've boxed in Trinity Boys for a couple of years, and I've done a little bit of Kempo, and I've done a bit of wrestling and stuff. But judo was my main sort of sport, or my main martial art, grappling martial art, you know, I stuck with. Still do a bit today.
Yeah. It's I think everybody when they're a kid, they associate martial arts as karate. Isn't it? It's kind of like...
Yeah, so for me, I think at the time, Monkey Magic was big on TV, Bruce Lee films were out, you know. It was all that type of stuff on the television, so everything was karate, you know. You didn't understand nothing else. So a white suit and a belt on you were doing karate, you know, but it was actually judo I was doing. So, yeah. I made a good call because it's a great sport. It's a great martial art. It's a tough martial art. So it was a good call for me, you know.
Yeah. And was it love at first sight?
No, I was never good at football or never good at basketball or shit like that, you know, or tennis. And I seem to be not bad at the grappling sports, but from 6 to about 12, I got my ass kicked. I think I only won one medal in the 6 years as a kid. And then when I became 12, 13, I sort of matured well. And the kids that were, I suppose, winning as young kids, they drifted off a little bit, you know. They couldn't handle that. Kids matured a little bit more. So I stuck with it, get my ass kicked. I wasn't one of those fancy kids that was winning medals every week, you know, and the parents with them, they were superstars. I was the kid that was probably getting beaten first round or, you know, getting beaten all the time. It took a good few years before I started winning a few medals, but I still turned up training every day, you know. I think that's what makes the difference.
Yeah. I think there's something when you sometimes get towards the teenage years that a bit more aggression or something like that can come out in you.
Yeah, I think we mature different. So I remember, like, say, being like a 10-year-old, I don't know what weight I was 28 kilos or 30 kilos or whatever it was. And kids that weight, some of them, they might have been a year or two older than me, you know, and they might have been a bit more mature, you know, physically and mentally. But when you start to catch up on them, you know, they couldn't handle that then. That's what I found. When they got into the teenage years, when you're getting a bit stronger and you've had it tough for the last few years, you know, you're able to hold your own now. I think sometimes some of the naturally gifted kids disappear then.
Yeah, yeah. Because like even when I was a kid, like in terms like the sparring side of taekwondo, I was always good in training. I was all right in training, but then when you get to competition, it's like I couldn't or just wasn't great. But then like when I started to get to about 12 or 13, around those ages, like it started to come together. Then I started to be able to put it together on the competition. So yeah, I think maybe there's something to that as well. Like I
was the same. But I think what people forget sometimes is when you're training, it's not competition. So sometimes the kids in the gym on the mat that they're giving you their 110%. That's their highest level. When you're training, when you get onto the competition mat, you have another gear or two you step up. Even as a kid, I think, you know. So I think that was their best, and they hadn't got that next level to go to, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And what was martial arts like in terms of? Was it big? Like was it even the club?
Yeah, was it
a
big
club?
Yeah. The club I was in, the Dagenham Judo Club, was probably one of the main judo clubs in Ireland. There was that, the Amacoy in the north. They were the two big gyms. So we had a lot of. It's at the time. It was a full-time mat area, you know, in the 70s and 80s, which was unheard of. It sort of died a death in the 90s, but the premises is still there. But the club sort of moved on to a local sports centre. But it was a busy club, and judo at the time would have been busy. It would have been competitive, and would have been some good bodies. You know, it was probably the best time, the 70s and 80s for judo. You know, it sort of died a death a bit after that, or the levels never sort of changed with the times. You know, but it was busy enough.
Yeah. Why do you think that was? Do you think maybe just the guys didn't open more clubs, or?
A couple of things. I think sometimes people running the clubs, the education is not, you know, guys coaching are doing it for the love of it, and they've probably have kids in the gym, but they're not proper coaches, or, you know, associations are small as well. I think judo in the UK in the 70s and 80s was huge. 90s was huge. It's still big there now, but not as big as it was. You know, like the Olympic medalists and world champions in the 80s, I was watching them on TV. We never really had that, you know. We never had that sort of level where you have the dojo and there's a whole lineage and a whole, you know, culture grown through it. We have it with boxing. You see it with boxing, the Crumlin and Drumlin boxing clubs and stuff. They have a great history to them. They're there, and the community's coming through them for years. I think the sports centre sort of killed that a little bit when martial arts go into a sports centre. You know, they have a spot for an hour or two a week. You know, it's not really a club, you know. That's why I think Jiu-Jitsu and MMA and modern martial arts now have their own premises, and you know, they grow much further and much bigger.
Yeah. I suppose it's that kind of success breeds success. It's very, isn't it? Like when you're seeing people winning, then like you have something to aim for and try and achieve the same or go further. But if you're looking around at the guys in the club and they haven't achieved too much, and we just have nobody to see success stories, it can be hard to
agree. I agree. Yeah.
I suppose you even seen that even now with MMA. Like for a long time in even Irish MMA, there wasn't anybody to look towards. But like over time, like people getting to the UFC, people getting to Bellator.
Yeah, and I think as well. Irish people, we always looked at as not being as good because this MMA, it's very good in America. They're all these Brazilians, you know. And it's not till you go and mix and train with them and get on the mat and you say, well, hang on a minute, we're as good as these fuckers, you know what I mean? So it's that way is a little bit different. At the start, I remember years ago, you'd be watching videos and you'd be training and you see some sort of big fancy name, and all of a sudden someone might visit Ireland, they're from America and they're doing MMA, and hang on a minute, I can hold me on with this guy, or hang on a minute, I tap this guy out, or the lads were better strikers, and we say, you know, sometimes we put ourselves down a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose it's like that with every sport, isn't it? That just the Irish people in general when it comes to sport, and I was like,
but boxing don't do it, and I think MMA since the, you know, sort of the growth of the Conor McGregor era and the Neill, Seery and all the guys that come up through SBG and that changed a little bit. You know, now we'll stand here, we're as good as anybody in the world. You know, we might be a little country, but we know how to fight. You know, I think boxing have showed us that, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what it's like in the taekwondo world. I don't know what it's like, you know, how you guys see yourselves, and, or, you know.
Yeah, like that for a long time we were not winning many medals at tournaments, and in about the last 10 years there's been that shift where, like, I suppose, like, look, younger people came through with a bit more ambition and drive. And like we finished in 2017, we were top of the medalist table at the World Championships.
Very good.
We were second in 2013. So like we're just younger people with more like that, more ambition have came through. So now like we'd consider ourselves to be one of the top countries, but like that for many years would have just been, we're kind of here to take part and sure, look, if we can nick a bronze medal here, won't that be great?
Yeah.
But it changes around. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like I do think like martial arts and combat sports are leading that. I think it'll potentially spread out into other sports like rugby. Like in fairness, the rugby players they have big goals of doing well, and I think maybe it might eventually spread out to the soccer, to like the football teams and that and other sports. I think the martial arts and combat sports are leading that kind of attitude that Irish people can achieve, and I think it will eventually kind of spread out across all kind of sporting fields.
Yeah, and I think it's the education of coaches and clubs as well, you know, and like I've learned loads of mistakes as an athlete, and then I try and, you know, don't make them mistakes as a coach. Then, you know what I mean? So I've made the mistakes, and I haven't hit goals I wanted to hit as an athlete, but say, okay, hang on a minute, I made that mistake. What did I do wrong? Okay, I'm not going to do that with my fighters, you know. So I think we're learning all the time, as you say. So the guys coming through have a better chance, you know.
Yeah, better coaches makes a big deal as well.
Yeah.
So then, like, how does in judo, how does the grading system work?
Yeah, so the judo, I haven't graded. My last judo grading was in 2000.
Yeah.
I got my 5th degree in 2000, so I've done all my bits and pieces then. So it's a long time since I graded. But as a senior, it will be the usual white, yellow, orange, green, blue, brown and black. But yeah, for your black belt, you do all your katas and your bits and pieces, but you fight off as well. You have a year to get 100 points, or if you get 5 fights and 5 bonds in the day, you get a thing called Batsakan to get your black belt, which is a big deal. I haven't been on a grade in a long time, but if someone joins judo now, I think you get your black belt within 3-4 years, you know, as a senior. For me, it's too quick. It's too soon. That's why I like the jiu-jitsu. You sort of average a 10. Doesn't matter how good you are, really. It's sort of a 10-year journey. Unless you're some sort of young, competitive athlete and you've time to travel the world and stuff, you get it in 5-6 years, you know?
Yeah. I suppose it's the problem with a lot of the traditional martial arts, isn't it? People just jump through the grades. They can get diluted down a small bit. Yeah,
so listen, I see guys fucking they've 10 dance on them and they're in their 30s, and I say, your 30s, like 10? How'd you get? Well, he awarded me this and I awarded him that. Well, you know, you look at most sort of structured martial arts, they'll have time, you know, okay, you get your black belt when you're 18 years of age, and then every 3 years you can probably get your first, you know, 2nd, 3rd degree, and then it's every 5 years up to a certain belt, you know. But guys are giving themselves belts looking week in, week out, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah. I suppose it's not that hard to get a new one. You can just buy one at the shop, you know, but it's kind of, what's the meaning that goes with it then, you know?
Or people start up their own styles, don't they? Like they'll leave Taekwondo or they leave them and they'll make up their own, you know, style, and they'll award themselves 100 different type of belts, you know, which is crazy as well.
Yeah. So then when did the change to jiu-jitsu kind of come about?
Yeah, so I've always, my judo coach is a guy called Norman Caprani. I trained with a few guys, but he was the sort of a guy that I trained, would have me training as a modern athlete, where we would have gone to the Hercules gym and wrestled, and we would have done our weight training there. And then later on was the Flex gym in town. So we would have having a strength and conditioning program. We did a bit of gymnastics, we wrestled, we ran, we swam, we cycled, we do all them things. So I would have done a lot of that as a judo player. When I was younger, and then coming to the end of my career, I had a good few injuries. 2000 wasn't going to make the Olympic Games, so I retired from the judo. But the year or two before that, I'd been messing about in the late 90s with John Kavanagh and Guy Peter Levy from the North, and a few guys doing what we thought was MMA and Jiu-Jitsu and stuff, but we started making it up as we were going by, you know. So it was really after 2000 I got into the full swing of the Jiu-Jitsu and MMA with John Kavanagh. He used to come out to me and I used to go out to him. I used to have a club in Colester on a Saturday, and it was crazy when you think about it. So I'd say, okay, we'll have the classes only at 2:00, and we'd go out first and we'd do a 5 or 6K run down through the park, and then we might play a football match, and then we'd come inside then and someone's had to get in a video on wrestling, MMA, or a UFC fight, or Thai boxing or something mad, and we'd do that I remember putting like lads had boxing gloves on and lads were trying to wrestle on the ground and we were trying to make it up as we were going by, you know. And then it could be 7, 8 o'clock, we could be leaving the gym, we'd be 6 hours in there because we'd be messing about 5, 6 hours, you wouldn't know what we'd be doing. And that was the start of that sort of era. Now, John had a couple of places before we used to go out to St. Andrew's School, and then when he had a place in the North Circular Road, it sort of straightened it up a little bit. We had more of a routine then. And I started doing a couple of more sessions in Calessa. So that was the start of me transferring from the judo. And as well as that, I'd been an elite athlete for, I say, 6, 7 years where you're training at a high level, cutting weight all the time. And then when I stopped, this was something new and different, you know. I never really took it too serious at the start. That was sort of the introduction. So it's 20 years ago. I actually found a video, a VHS video, and it's me, John Kavanagh, John Donnelly, a fella called Bill McCann, Dave Roach, and we're all at a grappling competition. It was one of these Kempo world bodies that had a grappling section in it. I think it was in 1999 in the basketball arena, and we're all fighting. It's very good. And then I have the same video. There's a seminar with Hodger Gracie, who became the best jiu-jitsu player ever, teaching and living in Ireland, and we're training with him in a squash court, and we're recording the training session like from 20 years ago. You know, I have the video there. Couldn't believe it when I was watching it, you know. It's crazy. Yeah. So that was a start. It was more of a hit and miss, and I wasn't taking it too serious because I was sort of retired as a competitive athlete at the time.
Yeah. I suppose, look, there you go. Like when you see that, like where you started and where you came from, and the coaching you were getting, like, or no coaching, to where your guys are, and if some of them are then go on to be coaches, maybe, you know, like it progresses. Like when you see, like, you were on the ground floor, like when it comes to Irish MMA, like, and even
and then when I watched the video, we were the first on the jiu-jitsu club. We set up with John. We were the first group of guys training. When I was watching the video, I was saying, I thought, like, Jesus, we weren't that bad. I was watching, you know, I said, I thought we were worse than we were. But, you know, we're pulling guard and we're pulling off arm bars and triangles and stuff. And, you know, so it wasn't as bad as I thought. Now, my judo career, I did a lot of groundwork. That's how John actually hooked up with me. I was known for doing arm locks and chokes on the ground. And, you know, I do a lot of my fights would end up on the ground. So I think I had that base anyway. So I naturally flowed into it, you know. But it was enjoyable then. There was no bullshit in politics, and it was a little bit more friendly, and we sort of learned off each other, you know. So it was good.
Yeah. I like that. And you jumped straight into competing in there as well with jiu-jitsu, was it? There was no kind of breakaway.
Yeah, so competing or... Yeah, like I never competed at the same level ever as I did in the judo. I'd gone from that, I was a carded athlete and I was on a world level. I was in the army at the time, so I was getting plenty of time to train. You know, my life was training, and I think I got a little bit burnt out. So this was something new. I've been cutting weight all the time. I was dropping 20 kilos for fights and crazy stuff, you know. So I think this was new. So I enjoyed this more as I went up and I jumped in these like Mickey Mouse MMA events up the north where they were great, actually. So I shouldn't call them Mickey Mouse events, but they were sort of the grassroots of them. They were, if you looked at it now, you'd laugh. You know, we went up and you just stood beside someone looked the same height or weight as you. You then had a scrap, and you could have 2 or 3 scraps, and the rules changed all the time. But they were great. And there was a competition in Killarney in 2000. It was the World Organization of Martial Arts Athletes, something like this it was anyway. But they had a grappling section and a mixed martial arts section in it. And we all jumped in it. But we didn't know the rules, so we got there. But we all won medals. It was a great bit of laugh and crack. But it was never too serious. I jumped into a couple of serious MMA fights. I got my ass kicked. I didn't really train for them. I fought at the wrong weights. I never sparred heavyweight guys, you know. I was probably the biggest guy in the gym at the time. I would have been in 90 odd kilos, and I was fighting monsters. But I just jumped in for the crack. I had nothing to lose. I hadn't got the same intensity I would have had as I was competing as a judo player. But that changed a little bit with the jiu-jitsu then. In the Masters, I've won the Pan Ams and I won the Europeans, and I took a bronze at the Worlds and stuff, you know. But I have to learn to have. It's hard to enjoy it more as a master, and it's a trip away with the lads instead of that competitive young athlete. You know what I mean? You have to sort of make a difference in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the competing as much as I did as a competitor, because I think I put a lot of pressure on myself. I got to win here and I got to do this, instead of saying, no, look, come over here. You're fucking in your 30s, your 40s. I'm 48 now in a couple of months. you know, you're having a bit of crack, a bit of that way with the lads, you're competing, you're testing yourself. I think it's about learning testing myself instead of, you know, doing it for other people, you know, so.
Yeah. I'm
probably waffling on there a little bit.
No. I think it's true. Like, I think there is something freeing sometimes when you just get in and it's just a bit of crack.
Yeah, I've always put the pressure on myself that, okay, I'm Andy Ryan, you know, it was a judo champion for so many years. I'm one of the main guys in the MMA scene, and myself and John, one of the main, you know, the second guy to get a black belt. And I got to put the pressure on myself. And who's watching me? There's nobody bleeding watching me. I'm watching myself. Do you know what I mean? So instead of enjoying, I enjoyed a couple of competitions. I had a great competition in the Pan Ams in America. I went over there with no thoughts of winning a championship. You know, never thinking it was going to be me. You know, you're going to America, you're going to be fighting Brazilians and stuff. And I remember getting the draw, and I was up against one of Lloyd Irvin's guys, and I think it was 2011. So what's the 10 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
So I was in my late 30s, and I remember looking up and down, and most of the masters fellas to say hello to you, and, you know, how's it going, and best of luck, and, you know, this. And I looked around and fighting this fella. He's about 6'5", you know, shaved hair, tattoos everywhere, and he wouldn't say hello to anybody. He's giving us all the looks. I got fucking drawn against him, but I beat him easy. I took him down a beautiful throw, and I wrist locked him. You know, but he was this. He thought he was getting in the UFC cage. You know, we were doing jiu-jitsu. It's grappling. It's not a fight. It's a competition more. You know, you're not punching each other. But I really enjoyed that event because I had nobody there that knew me really. Kept two teammates. I wasn't in Norway. I wasn't in Europe. I had no expectations of going and beating the Americans or the Brazilians. You know, I'm the little Irish guy. I end up winning it easy, win every fight by submission. So it was really good. I enjoyed that one. I didn't enjoy a lot of other ones where you put pressure on yourself. And I think I had to learn to go from the elite athlete I was in the younger days to that sort of coach. And you're jumping in here for a bit of crack. You know what I mean? That's the difference.
Yeah.
I'm saying that now, but I probably don't believe that myself.
Yeah. Well, I think like oftentimes like that though, the expectation into some of those tournaments, like it's like you said, it's expectation you're putting on yourself. Like more people watching you probably don't give a shit whether you win, whether you lose. Like, the people close to you, like your family might care, but usually people don't give a shit whether you win or you lose. Like it means something to you, but like I always think there's other people. I don't think anybody has lost sleep over me losing the match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, I think when I was in America competing, I only had me and another guy. There's only two of us competing, so we had a bit of crack. If I go to the European Championships and they're on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'm usually on the Sunday, so I'm coaching, could be 20 guys all week long. I'm in the venue from 9 in the morning till 6, 7 in the evening, and then I'm competing at the end of that week. And you're drawn, you know, you're half the person you were, you know, because you're so drawn from coaching guys to being up early and, you know, making sure guys are making the weight and being in the venue all week. So I did say if I was to go back to compete in the European Championships, I don't think I'd go as a coach would go as one of the players with the guys, because it's very hard to do both, you know.
Yeah, I'd imagine for sure. So then in terms of when you got your black belt, then did you come through like the same route as John Kavanagh, like as Matt Thornton, is that his who would have?
No, so Rodrigo Madeira. So this is the other thing people don't understand as well. Me and John had two separate gyms when we were started up. So I didn't start under John. We started together. I had a gym. Yeah. I had a Mickey Mouse name. I think mine could have been called Horizon, and his was Full Circle, something like that. And then John had gone away then and met Matt Thornton, and he was introducing this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We were doing it ourselves in our own separate groups, but John was introducing, and it was great. And Matt was very good, and I got on very well with him. And I was very proud to get a blue belt and a purple belt under him and John, and you know, it was really good. But I think at the time, myself and John were going in two separate directions. Plus, I was very traditional with the judo and the traditional martial arts, and I'd been training on and off with Rodrigo Madeira. John actually had brought him over, and I just got a bit of a bond with him. And I just said, you know what, that's the real for me. It was very much, it reminded me of being on the judo mat again, you know, very that sort of traditional way. And at the time of the MMA, we were competing as, you know, I was SPG Northside and John was SPG Ireland, and we would compete against each other. We'd let guys compete against each other. So we've always had, except with John, we'd be very good friends, very close friends, but we'd be good competitive gyms against each other. But we've always had that from day one, you know. So I went Rodrigo Madeira's route. I was training with him anyway, on and off, the few years we were doing jiu-jitsu, and I'd gone over to San Diego then, and I trained there, and I really liked what it was. So I got the affiliation for a Revolution team in Ireland, you know, and I'm sort of the man in Europe for that now. And at the time was a guy called Fergal Quinlan. Do you know Fergal? Fergal's from Limerick. Fergal's probably one of Ireland's best ever jiu-jitsu players. He never talks about himself or says anything. I remember Fergal in the early 2000s winning a bronze medal in the Pan Ams. You know, he doesn't tell people much. I say he'd be very good competitive black belt. So he was part of Revolution as well. So I was really happy to be, you know, like-minded people. You know, it was good. But I was very honoured, and you know, I do take a lot of respect from the blue and purple belt that I got from John. But I stepped up. I'm a third degree black belt now under Rodrigo, so I'm there a long time now. You know.
Yeah. So then, how did you find transitioning from being a competitor to being a coach?
Yeah, I found it hard at the start sometimes, because sometimes I would be, I was trying to compete myself and coach. And I remember then someone said to me one day, you got to be one or the other, you know. So even on the mat sometimes, we have a good wrestling coach in the gym, Bill McCann. Even to this day, I'd be on the mat, and like I got a bad injury there earlier this year, tore my hamstring, and badly now. I couldn't walk for a couple of weeks, and it's still not 100%. The wrestling class is on, and one of the younger guys is nobody to go with, and I went out and wrestled with him, and he was giving me a hard time, so I went 100% at him, you know, and I'm still thinking I'm a competitor instead of being the coach, you know what I mean? And I ended up tearing my hamstring and put myself off the mat for a couple of months and stuff, you know. So yeah, I understand the coaching game, but sometimes I have to remind myself I'm the coach and not the athlete. That's hard. But the other good part about it is, at least I am a coach that has competed and knows what it takes, and knows and has made the mistakes. I travelled the European circuit as a judo player, where you will be in a training camp and you'd compete somewhere, and you could be in Paris and you compete, and then you get to train down to Austria and you do the training camp there and you compete. So I've learned and watched other teams how they train. So as an athlete, learning that, I've taken all them things on board. And then travelling to the States, seeing how guys are doing stuff. And in the early days, I'd Neill Seery going over to K-Bon in England, and Seery, I'd Reds and Donnelly went to American Top Team and went to TriStar, and guys going to AKA, learning something, bringing stuff back to the gym. So I think as a coach, I've developed well because I've been that elite athlete. I've made the mistakes as an athlete. Sometimes I still think I am the athlete, which is good, I think. But I'm always looking to knowledge and learn. I'm always trying to take stuff from other people and learn. And I'm not one of those guys that say, no, I know it all. No, I don't know it all. You know, I think that's the bad mistake of a coach. And if I can see you can give me something, or you can help me out with something, I'm going to take it on, you know. So I think at the start it was hard to transfer from an athlete to a coach. Probably a 10-year period, but now I'm a full-on 100% coach, and it's probably taken me a long time, but but I am now.
Yeah. Do you think that's important? Like you mentioned that you competed. Do you think that's it? Do you think that's an important factor on being a good coach? Do you like to see coaches that have competed at high level?
I do, and I don't. I think they got to understand about coaching. Like, just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're a good coach, you know. And I found that it took me a long time to learn. Like when I look at the judo scene, and I say, for me, I didn't reach the heights I could have reached, and I think because a lot of that was training on my own. So I probably was my own coach for a long time, you know. So I had to learn a little things like that. But you might get a guy that could be involved in the gym, and it could be a very good natural coach. And once he does his education and understands the sport, you know, because you see with others, you see with guys involved, it's, you know, a high performance coach can involve in any sport, I think. You know what I mean? So if he understands the principles and the goals and what it takes to be a certain athlete, I think he can transfer that a little bit, you know. Especially with the MMA game, like I got my judo background, and you get guys like yourself, taekwondo and boxing, they come in, but they have that professional coach and martial art mind. I think is very, very important. You know what I mean? And to be open-minded and try and learn. One of the things I do is the best thing that's happened to MMA in the world is the IMMAF, the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, because it's like that. It's competitive now. It's a competition now. So it's like when you go to your taekwondo event, you have all the mat areas, and they're all warming up together. You're competing as an athlete in a competition. It's not a fight, really. So MMA has gone that way, where you're coming up to the hotel and you check in, you weigh in, you go to the venue. You haven't got a separate changing room. We're all on the one mat warming up. You know, we're beside each other. you know, and there's no special music. You're coming out, you're going out in the cage, you compete, you win, you're on the next day. So it's competition more than that fight, you know. And when I'm away, I'm always watching what the other coaches are doing, what the athletes are doing, and I'm always asking. So I talk to the Swedish guys. They were one of the best teams there for a long time in the MMA game. And I say to them, you know, what do you think makes a good MMA fighter, or how do you think the game is going? And they'd say to you, okay, well, the amateur game and the professional game are different. The amateur game is 3 3-minute rounds. For a week-long tournament, you can't afford to go out and have a barn buster of a fight because you mightn't pass your medical for the second day. So you got to be clever. So you got to be able to box well, you got to be able to wrestle, and you got to be able to control your opponents. So you'll see in a lot of the MMA events, the first 2 or 3 days, guys are winning on decisions because they're not taking that chance of getting cut or getting something broke and they're out, you know. So it's learning them tactics, where as a professional fighter, it's the one fight on the night. So you're putting the work in, you know what I mean? You can give it all on the night, but as an amateur, you can't, you know. The other thing I think is good now, it's changing with MMA, is that we had this thing in Ireland of records and competing and amateurs doing 12-week camps. Not bloody hard, you know. That's okay as a professional. But as an amateur, you should be competing as much as you can. Like, how many taekwondo fights have you had? Could you remember?
Somebody asked me this like back a podcast ages ago, like back maybe like 30 episodes ago, and honestly I could not tell you, like, because like I've competed since I started training and competing when I was 7 years of age, and I'm 26 now. I'm 26 now, and like that.
So thousands,
tell you,
hundreds.
I could tell you maybe how many fights I could probably work out maybe the last 10 years, but like I can't remember every competition.
So hundreds
I had as a kid.
Oh, hundreds of them. Okay, so most MMA fighters, you ask an MMA fighter now, how many fights have you had? 5, 10, some of the non-experienced 20. You know, some guys are having 5 amateur fights and going professional. Crazy. So you imagine you starting off as some guy takes up taekwondo at 18 years of age. Okay, he's starting at the bottom rung, and he has his first 5 fights, and then decides to say to you, "Oh, I'm going to win the Olympic Games next week." You know, there's no level there. So I think it's the same with the MMA. So what IMMAF have done, they've given us that chance. So guys are going out and they're going to an event and they might get knocked out in the 4th round. Then they go to the next event and they get a bronze medal. And their records are building and their experience are building. So what you're getting out of that now is guys who are going pro after 30, 40 fights, you know, which is great, instead of guys going pro after 5 fights. And then what it's going to do is, there's no need for guys to go pro now. You can't become, you know, a champion at an amateur level. What's the point in going pro? You know, stick at the amateur level and enjoy it and get in there and get fights, you know. So I think the IMMAF is a great stepping stone at the moment. And when you go to the event and the opening ceremony and the flags and, you know, with your team tracksuit on and your fighters there, he's competing in competition. I think it's competition, not a fight. I think that's the big difference. Professionals, it's a fight and it means more. There's money involved, and, you know, but as an amateur, you lose 3 fights as an amateur, it doesn't make a difference. You win the next 10 fights, you know? Yeah.
And I think that's a bit like you said, I think for a long time, MMA was an adult sport, you know, like, and I think this kind of thing is guys are coming in as adults and they kind of, maybe they're looking at going to pro because maybe they came from other martial arts. They spent maybe their time as kids in other martial arts and they're coming and then they only want to have 5, 6 fights to learn, maybe to come from striking, they want to learn the grappling and vice versa. And it's about getting to pro. So it's not spending that much time at amateur. But I think now it's starting to change, and kids are starting to get into MMA straight, like MMA straight from the off. And I think that the IMMAF then can start to develop them, and like you said, get lots of competition in that way. Yeah. And then I think, like you said, they'll transfer then from being juniors to being seniors, still competing in IMMAF tournaments, and then maybe they'll go to pro, or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be like, I think it would be good if the IMMAF tournaments went very similar to amateur boxing. You know, guys have amateur boxing careers and they mightn't go pro.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like. That's the goal of it. It's very much, the guys are all involved are from wrestling, judo, boxing backgrounds. You know, the guys it's that amateur Olympic type of sport setup. That's what it's very much like. So you would know it from the taekwondo company. It's very much like that. Where we never seen that in MMA. You know, it was the show on a Saturday night. A guy is trained for 6 months and he's having a fight, you know, and there's pressure and the family are coming and there's people pissed to the side of the cage. That's all out the window for this. You go in, you compete, you got beaten today or you won today, whatever, you know. It's great.
Yeah. And I think, and I was Ryan Spillane actually, and I said this to him as well.
He's a great example of it.
Yeah.
He's a great example of it.
Yeah. And I think what's going to happen is it'll be like potentially winning an IMMAF gold medal can be like winning that Olympic medal, that when you go pro, you're straight away making more money. You know, that means that like,
that's happening now at the moment. That's happening now at the moment. Yeah, you can see that there at the moment with the likes of the guys on the Brave shows. You know, they've all come through as winners and champions, and they're getting signed with good contracts and good money, you know, because they have that bit of pedigree behind them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you see, like you see in pro boxing all the time. If you have that Olympic gold medal behind you, you're straight away making better money, and your pro career is kind of, you're starting a couple of steps down the road further than you would guys who are just have an amateur career or anything like that.
Yeah, and you have a high level of training and coaching behind you, you know. So that's the good thing with it as well, you know.
Yeah, like you said, offers more competition. Like you can't beat mat time essentially, you know. And competitive mat time.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. What do you think of some of those guys that, you know, they've maybe had 2 amateur fights and they've won the 2 of them, and they're thinking they're in they think they're like Conor McGregor, you know, they think they're the UFC champion, and I suppose Billy Big Bollocks to some degree, you know. It's like sometimes it's like, you've had 2 amateur fights, like, you know, relax, like, you know.
Yeah, it depends. The thing I look at and say, as an amateur, you should enjoy it more. If you're, say, an Irish boxing champion and you come in and you win 2, you know, quick amateur MMA events, and you know, you're probably a high level athlete, you want to go pro to give it a chance, that's different. But someone that comes into the gym and trains and has 2 fights, and you know, the other thing, something very similar to that is that you would never see it in taekwondo, right? And you never see it in judo and boxing. So a guy has 2 fights in taekwondo, he doesn't open his own gym, does he? His own club. Takes years of practice and stuff. Yeah. So that's a big thing in MMA and a big thing in jiu-jitsu. Guys get their 4th belt and they open a gym and they're offering international war level training. Now hang on, you're learning, you're still a student. You know, you'd never see, like, you think of every black belt that becomes a black belt in your gym, leaves and opens a gym. It'd be fucking crazy, you know. So it's a bit similar with the lads' fight. They've won 2 fights and then, you know, they think it's the fucking, you know, the world championships the next fight. Well, hang on a minute, you know, relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Enjoy it more. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you have a preference on coaching amateur versus pro?
I like both. I actually, when someone told me, I get too emotionally attached to my fighters. You know, that's because I care about them, you know. But I think the elite level MMA and the elite level amateurs at the IMMAF is the same as the pros, because they train full time. They train at a very high level. You know, it's like, you know, taekwondo guy going to the Olympic Games. He's not really an amateur, he's a professional athlete. You know what I mean? That's what he is. He trains full time. So it's the same with us. I can understand guys that I wouldn't have as much pressure on guys that are just jumping in. This is what I try and say to the guys in the gym. Okay, you come and tell me, if you just want to come and train the odd night here a week and you want to try an MMA fight, jump into the local show and have a go, win or lose, not the end of the game, no problem. But if you want to make that pro game, or you want to become an amateur world champion, or you want to make the UFC, okay, I'm going to treat you different, and we're going to look at how things are, and you got to be here 6 days a week, and you got to do A, B, C, and D, and we'll see how we go. And I will be harder on you coaching you, and if I'm coaching you in the corner, I will be harder on you. But the guy that's working 5 days a week and has kids at home, or just wants to jump in for the crack and give it a go, no problem. We'll support you, we'll help you. We won't get you injured or hurt, but I'm not going to put the same pressure on you, you know. So you have to learn to coach different levels, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose like it's good that you have people at a gym like that, because you know, some gyms can be very much like maybe go the other way. We only coach pro fighters, or you know, maybe.
Yeah, well, we had that. We had that people wouldn't come to us. Everyone was saying too aggressive down that team. Ryano, they knock the bollocks out of you. They're all scumbags. They're this, to that. I wouldn't go there. Actually, we actually caught a coach saying this to guys who were asking about coming to our club at a show one time, and we pulled them up on it. And would you ever spar down there? No. How do you know they're this? I was told. No, we do a hard training session. That's, yeah, a pro and competitive team. We do train hard. Maybe we train too hard sometimes, you know. But the novice and the amateurs and the beginners don't train like that, you know. And the same with the jiu-jitsu class. We have an older jiu-jitsu team in their place. We do train hard, but we don't train as hard as anyone else. We're not as tough as anyone else. You want to get tough jiu-jitsu classes at the highest level, you go to Darragh O'Connell's. You know, they're the #1 gym in Ireland. You know, and you have to expect that as a coach. We offer something different, you know. We're sort of we're a team where we compete wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, you know. So we're doing wrestling, MMA and jiu-jitsu. So we're doing the 3 different sports there. We're not just on the one sport, so it's hard to to give 100% to the one sport. We do have to train them, but we have a massive kids jiu-jitsu team, and we're probably one of the best in the country for that. We have a big team there. We've a great crowd up the north. The guy Robert, he looks after the kids team up there with Peter Levy and lads, and then my own lads in my gym. We think we could have 150 kids, 200 kids sometimes at a competition. So it's great, So on that end, we're tough, but enjoyable.
Yeah. And then do you take many of the kids' classes and that yourself then?
No, I bleeding hate doing the kids' classes.
Yeah.
I'll do some of the older teenagers, the seniors. Yeah, I have a great guy. I'm actually very lucky. I've a great junior coaching team in my place. I have a fellow called Jason O'Connor. He's a black belt under me. His two kids train. Stevie Carr, Paddy Roach, and Paul McIntyre. They look after the kids in my gym in Finglas. And they're all parents of kids that train, which is great. And they're really, really good at teaching and very, very friendly with the kids, and they make it fun and friendly, And then I have a great gym in Donamead where there's two gyms are the same, and I have a great couple of guys there, Mikey and Stewie and Keith McCabe. They run the kids there, and they've the same thing. It's very family orientated. They're all friends, they're all pals, But all the kids train, the families train together. So we have our kids jiu-jitsu and our adults jiu-jitsu is two different things. The kids we're building an army for the future with them, I think,
Yeah. Yeah, it is two different. You need to, as a coach, wear two different hats even you're jumping between the kids and the adults. Like,
even in my gym, my MMA is young and my jiu-jitsu is older. So most of my jiu-jitsu guys are over 30. And most of my MMA guys are that sort of 17 to 28. That's the sort of, we've allowed them, so it's trying to manage both.
Yeah. And then, like, with the pros, what's the buzz like been then when you're sitting cage side for a UFC show?
Yeah, it's great. I think the first one the very first one with Neill Seery and in the 3 Arena on the main card, that was a little bit of not like a blur, but it wasn't until the second time experience we enjoyed it more, that we were brought over there. We were, of course, 2 weeks notice, the underdog, going in there in London. But I have to say, you got a great reception, and the buzz and the feeling of it was.
That was against Brad Pickett, I think, was it?
Brad Pickett, yeah. Meant to be one of the best strikers of flyweight and wouldn't stand with Neill,
That was a good fight, yeah. It was a great fight.
Yeah, I think if we had to have the camp for that fight, I think we could have won that fight. We had a quick tournament. I think it was 15 days. The Irish people got behind him. His opponent pulled out. We jumped in, But the best feeling ever was the first big UFC in Dublin. I don't mean the first in 2007 or 8, but the one where we had the big Irish crowd on it, and I have to say, I was nearly crying coming out of that when we walked out with Neill, the flag, and his song come on, and the vibrations of the crowd. It was unbelievable. It was the best thing I've ever felt or seen in my life. Now I think all the ones after that were as good, but that first one was crazy, and it was such a night. We had a great. I think every Irish guy won that night. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Was it kind of like I suppose, like seeing from where you came from, I suppose, like you said, you were kind of training and fooling about in a hall and trying to figure things out on your own, to you're walking out with a fighter in the UFC.
Yeah,
the crowd,
yeah, it was. It was that thing I say about we're as good as anybody in this world, and that proved it. I remember as a judo player, as a kid, and you get drawn against someone from England. Oh, you're in trouble. They're English. They have great shit gyms and facilities, and then you get a bit older. Oh, that French fella, that Russian guy, they're the best in the world, they'll kill you. Or if someone walked into the room was from Japan, he might be a white belt, or he's Japanese, they're great at judo. So we had that misconception in our brain about everyone is better than us. Now, hang on a minute, here we are in the biggest show in the world, and there's all the Irish guys kicking these people's asses and winning well. There's the main event, Conor McGregor, winning. So we went out and won that well, so it showed that, hang on, fuck with me, these Irish guys are the business here, there's something to the real deal.
Yeah, there was.
I think the Welsh guys are doing that now,
Yeah.
Jack Shaw and the guys there, they're having a great time there now. It's great results coming out of the Welsh team at the moment.
Yeah, it's small. It seems like a small little hotspot there, isn't it? Just the guys coming out of there.
Yeah.
Some great fighters. Yeah. Mason Jones, another one.
Mason Jones, unbelievable. Yeah, Jack Shaw is unbelievable. For me, one of the best fighters in the USA at the moment, the last few years, and he goes under the radar, is Arnold Allen, I've seen Arnold competing, in cage where he's a young guy. He's 8-0 in the UFC. You know, that's unbelievable. And he's fought good guys. He's really, really good. Really good. And I think he's doing it right. He's keeping his head down. He's getting the wins. He's building himself up. You know, he's some guy. He's a success story, that guy, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him now pushing closer to the title because, like you said, has had some big wins.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can start to step up.
But he's doing it properly, I think. I think he's doing it properly. He's building all the time. He's getting better all the time. You know, he's doing really well.
Yeah. Am I right in saying you're not kind of into the, I suppose, the shit talking side of MMA, or that goes with pro MMA? You're much more like about the sport and seeing guys build.
I don't mind that people want to do it. I just never been that type. I'm very much, if I have a problem, I'll say it to you. I have respect for all coaches and athletes getting in there, but if you have a problem with me, I'll no problem have a problem with you, you know. But usually I go to the show, I try and be nice to everybody. I always respect you in the corner. I might get a bit emotional and I might get a bit like, you know, we're in a fight here before we go out, but I go and shake your hand, win or lose, you know. And I think you have to have that respect because we're all in the one boat, you know. And you climb to the top, you got to climb back down again. And you have fighters coming in and out all the time. You have to respect for people. It's a lot of work to get there and to do what we do. So, of course, I'll have a competitive, you know, vibe against you. But I've no problem with you, you know. And I think some guys do talk to bullshit. That's great. That's the pro game. I hate it in the amateur game. I don't think there's no need for it in the amateur game because you shouldn't even be in a separate change room. You should be warming up together, get them because it's competition. But as a professional game, no. And if you want to talk shit and someone, no problem. I don't get involved in it. I know we had it with Myles and Peter Queeley. There was a bit of shy talk between them. But I still had great respect for Peter, and I talked to Peter before the fight. How are you, Peter? How are you, Andy? How's things? All their team, no problem. I don't get involved in that. When we go to them, to that 3 arena, that change room, and, you know, we're not like SBG be the biggest team there, and they'll have half the change rooms, but nobody intimidates me or nobody gives me shit. And I say hello to everybody and give them all the respect they deserve, you know. And I think that's the way to do it. It's a very, very small world, the MMA world. You know, a very small world. And you're mixing at shows and seeing at shows. We had a great one years ago. We were at a show in Sunderland, and Rodney Moore, one of the great MMA coaches in Ireland, a great MMA competitor himself, and some great fighters from out his gym. He grabbed the room and you know, put up, there was us, there was him, and there was another gym from Ireland. Got us all into one change room, you know. We're all together, working, bouncing off each other. Because say, instead of you being on your own, you know, they had one fighter, we had a fighter. Now, hang on a minute, there's a little crowd that's here. We're from Ireland, we're in England. I don't give a shit about all that Catholic, Protestant, North, South bullshit. I have no time for any of that. Our team is across the communities, none of that bullshit. So it was great. Rodney get to change the room. We're all up there. We're all here, Irish guys here. We all know each other from the scene of Ireland. Let's support each other. Anyone want the hand warming up, anyone, everything all right, best of luck going out. You know, that's great. I think that's great in MMA. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could be on your own, and if you're a dickhead, you're not going to get support or help from people. But if you're all right, now at the same time, we still don't let people walk on you. You know what I mean? We put the chest out there, but we'll also put the hand out there. You know?
Yeah. That's like it's a different vibe. Like you said, like it definitely in taekwondo, and like that. Like we've been at European and World Championships, and like actually like. This one stood out to me. I even thought it at the time at the European Championships. It was 2019 now because we didn't get out last year in Bosnia. And like you had 3 guys who were on the podium. We're all warming up in about 6 mats, about 6 mats wide. We're all warming up in the same little area. Like,
yeah, you see that the judo and everything. That's the way it is.
It's mad, like,
because it's competition. It's, you know, like you're on, especially the taekwondo. You're probably on a circuit that year. So many competitions. You know, the judo and stuff. You know, you could be in Paris, Austria, and we have different Grand Prix, different qualifying events are on. So you can't have fucking single change rooms and you know, divide it up. It's a competitive
There's a warm up
sport,
area,
you know what I mean?
and you can use it or
not.
Yeah,
you warm up there. That's it. You know, because it's a competition. But then when you step to that pro level, it's different. Now it's a show, and now there's big money involved, and now it's, you know, there's only 10 guys or 20 guys on a card. We can do all that, you know. But as a competition where you have every weight class and you have 20 or 30 people in each weight class, you got to all warm up together, you know. Yeah. Plus, you're going to have to fight someone. We shouldn't be fucking afraid to warm up beside them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's where the mind games was well play as well in the area. You know, that's where you know, you'd be warm and looking good there. You'd be scoping out who you're competing against and stuff. You know, or the opposite way with some people's nerves go. You know what I mean?
like I said, I kind of know that I kind of pegged it there the last time, and it was great. There was a bit of tension, and like you said, you're always seeing the guys then who are sitting down and they're watching you warming up, and they're kind of see what's he doing, and then you see sometimes you're watching like guys from other divisions, and they're kind of seeing, well, they're sitting down, and then the guy they're going against gets up and starts hitting the pads and is warming up, and they kind of, oh geez, I better get up now and start hitting the pads, and it's a mad
plus you're making friends as well. Plus you're making friends, and you're saying hello to guys. You finish your fight and you're back on the mat. Where sometimes in the program you don't see the other people after the fight. You're in a separate changing room and you're gone on the bus. You're gone, or you don't see the second half of the card or the first half of the card. If you're on the first half of the card, you're brought in a separate bus. Them guys are coming, you're finishing, you're gone out there, So I think that mad area thing is a very, very friendly thing. That's why I think as well, I really enjoyed the Cage Warrior years where Cage Warriors was the main show and we would travel on the circuit. So you were becoming friends with all the different teams because we're on the plane going to Jordan or going to Lebanon or going to Ukraine with them, and we're all competing. And then after the competition, we're having a beer, the coaches together, and the fighters are chatting. So it was great. That was a great atmosphere and a great vibe. It was like a traveling show nearly. Around Europe and Ireland. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was brilliant. It makes some great friends for me.
Yeah, that would have been a great buzz, I would imagine. Yeah, like I said, even the fighters competing against each other, they were like, it's more competition then, I suppose, than or something like that.
Yeah. And look, there's no harm in the fellas want to do the show talk and let them do it. That's no problem. It's just not something I do,
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned that you see guys in jiu-jitsu and they're training maybe to get the blue belt and they start opening clubs. Is that kind of why you're kind of, because you kind of run it, am I right in saying like a Team Ryano affiliation where there's gyms throughout the country that are kind of affiliated to you?
Yeah. So so what we'll do is
like a base
a base. So we'll have an affiliate training group. So we might get someone that has come to us and they want to be part of the team. And I'd start to look and say, okay, let me see. Okay, well, what, start to say, we're not just a jiu-jitsu, we're jiu-jitsu MMA wrestling. So we might have someone come. We've had a new team join us there recently. They're experienced MMA, but they're not experienced in jiu-jitsu. So we'll help them out on that end of it as well, So we've no problem coming on board as a team, as an affiliate training group. Or you might see guys that, they've been a black belt like a taekwondo and they open a gym. Like, they're not novices, they're not someone that hasn't done anything. So we've a big network. We have at the moment we just have a Jim and Alma have just come on board to join the team. They're on the starting steps of it. Like, there's a lot we do with them. We'll do like in-house coaching course. We'll do in-house training, all stuff like that, and then they'll come down for sparring and we'll go up to them for training and stuff. And then we have other affiliates around there. We'll sort of help them out as we're going by. So we have Alma. We have another place, Causeway, in Coleraine. We have Derry. We have another place, Limavady. And then we have Peter Levy in Belfast. Then down here, we have me here. Keith McCabe is me Donna May gym. Ushie McCabe is in Artane. And then we have Bobby Mead in Waterford. We have Kenny Higgins in Portlaoise. Mods Price in Kilkenny. I'm missing out someone. I'm probably missing out someone, but Cork, Kieran Brown in Cork.
Oh yeah.
So we have a big network. Yeah, we have a big network, and some of them are more jiu-jitsu, some are more MMA, and the MMA lads link more with the MMA guys. Like the lads in Waterford are MMA, and Wexford are MMA, and the lads in Cork are jiu-jitsu. So we can mix about a little bit.
Yeah. I imagine, like you said, I would imagine that there will be at some point going forward competition between those gyms, but it's good to maybe keep everything that still together, that you can train together and cross over.
Yeah, well, what we do is we also do our in-house competition where we haven't done it this year because of COVID, where we'll have a jiu-jitsu competition, we'll have a kids competition where they'll all compete against each other, and then when we go away then, to compete together against other people. So we do keep competition there, yeah.
Yeah.
What I try and do with the MMA, I try not let the guys, when they get a bit serious, compete against each other, because sometimes it can put a bit of a bad vibe between affiliates. There's plenty of other teams in the country to compete against. We want to be able to train together and help each other out. You know what I mean? That's the thing there.
Yeah. You just can't escape the politics of it. It's something in some shape or form, can you? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I suppose, look, maybe before we finish up, I ask everybody, if you had to pick a favorite fighter that you like watching, who would it be? Maybe not. I tend to ask for one, but I always tend to let people have two or three. So if to pick maybe a couple of favorite fighters that you like.
Favorite fighter. See, in MMA, Jiu-Jitsu or Judo? Which? So for me, the Judo was always Koga. He passed away there a couple of weeks ago. Unbelievable Judo player, died of cancer in his 50s. He for me was the boy to watch. Jiu-Jitsu, I always liked Bruschetta, and he always liked Almeida, and he always liked Hodger Gracie. I like the bigger guys that could do a little bit of throwing and do all the basics really good. And MMA, I'm a big fan of GSP. I was a big fan of Matt Hughes, you know, Randy Couture, sort of the older guys that have that good base, you know. I think GSP is a big fan of. Yeah. Really, I suppose, of the MMA, you know.
Yeah, GSP is one that comes up time and time again. He's probably
I think because he does everything.
Yeah,
he was a true mixed martial artist, and he's good at everything, you know.
Yeah, that's it. Like, good base across everything, and like you kind of said, not much shit talk then to go with it. Like, you know, it was a martial artist.
Well, he shows it on the cage, doesn't he, on the mat, you know, and you know, I think that's what I liked him, you know. I liked Matt Hughes as an athlete. I didn't like him in The Ultimate Fighter, sometimes throwing Bibles in front of fellas making him read it, but I thought as an athlete and his work ethic was unbelievable. I think I like anyone that works really hard and trains really hard, you know. I'm not too caught up on unbeaten records. I think, you know, you would never see, I don't think you see it in Judo or other traditional martial arts taekwondo, somebody has never lost a competitive match, you know. So I think sometimes if you can get caught up now, he's 10 an hour, he's 30 now. No, there's plenty of other guys that fight different weight classes and different levels, and you know, are great. But I think GSP for me, GSP and Matt Hughes, like I like Matt Hughes.
Yeah, two great picks there. Two great picks.
Yeah,
like I said, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks, man, for coming.
Lovely. Thanks for having me on. Anytime at all. Yeah.
Yeah, really
Pleasure.
appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
No
Enjoyed
problem.
the chat,
Thanks
hearing your story, hearing your take on, I suppose, a couple of different sports, Jiu-Jitsu, MMA. And, like I said, you were in at ground zero when it comes to MMA.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, yeah, the late 90s, we sort of was the start of it, really, you know. And then we got serious then. That's it.
Stuff.
All right, thanks very much.
Take care. All the best.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.